Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Ed Hashik, and I'll be the MC tonight. And this show tonight, you're going to be hearing from Ben Sorensen, the City Commissioner and Chairperson of an Public Art Committee here in Fort Lauderdale. And then you'll hear from Rebecca Bradley from Cadence. We'll explore Flagler Village's Mockingbird Trail. And then we'll meet one of FAB's corporate partner, Denise Elia. After that, we're off to Oregon and Washington, to learn about Gallery Without Walls. There will be a Q&A following the presentations. So I'd ask if you have questions, please submit them during the presentations. And at the end of presentations, we'll have the Q&A. So I hope you have your beverage handy, because sit back and enjoy the program. First off is Ben Sorensen. He is Fort Lauderdale City's Commissioner of District 4 and chairs the Public Art Committee. So welcome, Ben, to FAB Presents.
Thank you, Ed. It's great to be here with you. Thank you for allowing me to spend a little bit of time with you, and thank you to all the FAB supporters and friends. Especially like to thank Gail Augustin, who invited me to join tonight, and also my other good buddy, Bonnie Barnett. So hello, ladies. Great to be here. And what I thought is I'd just maybe give you a little bit of some of the amazing arts and culture work that's happening in the incredible city of Fort Lauderdale. And would love to have your engagement and support of any of these initiatives that wanted to share with you. So as Ed mentioned, one of the really exciting projects we've moved forward as a city commission is a new public art and placement advisory board. And so this is the first time ever in the city of Fort Lauderdale we're going to have a board like this. And you're looking at beautiful pictures of the Fort Lauderdale Airport, which the city, in conjunction with Broward County, mostly Broward County's amazing work, has led to some just great art projects at the airport and the seaport. This Public Art and Placement Advisory Board will be comprised of 7 citizens, 7 neighbors here in the city of Fort Lauderdale, including several artists as well as supporters of art in the public spaces. And they will be convening monthly. Their first meeting is actually tonight. I'm not the chair. It's going to be purely non-elected officials led. And we've just got some great folks on this board. And we as a city have formed for the first time ever a public art fund. And so what that is going to be is going to require anytime there are developments, real estate developments in downtown, developers will have to contribute to the public art fund for placement and purchase of public art. So this is going to be very exciting. And this advisory board will basically help select art exhibits, will help select projects, will direct expenditures, and focus on placemaking. And you see some amazing placemaking that's happening at Port Everglades. So that's one of the really exciting portions of our art in the city of Fort Lauderdale. We work hand in hand with Broward County Cultural Art Division, which is led by an amazing individual named Philip Dunlop and Meredith Clements. Those are 2 fantastic individuals that help partner with the city in doing some of this amazing work. Additionally, just personally, my wife works at the NSU Art Museum, so the Sorensen family is 100% into art, and not only the importance of it culturally, but art tourism, cultural tourism. This is a part of who we are as a city and as a county. And the city of Fort Lauderdale, I think, has done something very few other cities that have done, which is we've contributed from city general fund over $500,000 to arts organizations and entities annually in the city of Fort Lauderdale. So I'm very proud of that. And it's helped support some of our amazing art communities like Fat Village, which has the county's largest arts walk in the county. Also the Mass District, which stands for Music and Arts South of Sunrise, has home to fine arts and galleries. Also very proud of Art Fort Lauderdale, and you're just in time for Art Fort Lauderdale. It starts next month, and Art Fort Lauderdale is amazing brainchild of Andrew Martineau, who does amazing work in arts in our city and county, and Evan Snow, and basically turns amazing residences in and around the city of Fort Lauderdale on the water into art galleries. And for about a week and a half during January, you will be led around to these various art galleries by water and just experiencing the splendor of the exhibits at these fantastic private residences that you would really normally not get to see and celebrate. There's also a really exciting portion that we're partnering with Broward County, which is lighting of some of our bridges and artistic lighting of those bridges. The first one we're going to be focused on is the Andrews Avenue Bridge, which goes right down downtown Fort Lauderdale and crosses the New River. And this is going to be over a $500,000 investment in our bridge there and several other bridges in the county that will light up and creatively show the wonder of these architectural and artistic features. Another great project, which Rebecca is going to share with you shortly, is the amazing project that she's been really helping lead called Mockingbird Trail, and I'll save that amazing surprise if you aren't familiar with it with Rebecca's great sharing of that. So those are some of the projects here in the city of Fort Lauderdale. We are driven here in the city to make Fort Lauderdale an amazing place that you never want to leave, that you want to work here, play here, visit here, and celebrate the arts and culture here. And so arts is not only important to draw people into Fort Lauderdale, but to keep them here in Fort Lauderdale. And that's what we're committed to, City of Fort Lauderdale. Thank you, FAB, for all your work. And Ed, I'll turn it right back over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Ben. It's exciting to hear what some of the projects are going to be underway in Fort Lauderdale. And also, I think it's important, this whole program that we have today is about being aware of public art, being aware of art in our community. So again, thank you, Ben. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce Rebecca Bradley. She is the founding partner of Cadence, which is an environmental design firm, and also represents the Mockingbird Trail Committee in Fort Lauderdale. This trail is an urban experience located near downtown, as Ben said, near Fat Village in Flagler Village. Its plan is to be an 8-mile urban trail interspersed with art objects. So here's Rebecca to tell you more about it. Rebecca?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. As Ed mentioned, I'm Rebecca Bradley, and I am a founding principal with Cadence Landscape Architects. I do serve as one of the advisory board members for the Friends of Mockingbird Trail, and I'm one of the founding creators of the trail project. Next slide. You can go to the next one now. Thank you. Awesome. So I've been practicing landscape architecture in South Florida for about 19 years. And at Cadence, we're landscape architects that focus on connecting both physical and social landscapes. We really do understand the great impact that humans have on the built world and what that happens, how that interfaces with the environment. So we work really thoughtfully to make sure that our projects make a positive impact on the environment. As landscape architects, we have the great privilege to work with natural systems along with built materials. This is our medium to create artful experiences outdoors. In our current portfolio, we're working throughout Broward and Miami-Dade on several urban redevelopment projects. Back to the other slide. Sorry, yeah, this one. And we're also serving as a landscape architect of record for Bal Harbor's new exciting reimagination of their jetty cut walk. We're working in Jacksonville and South Georgia, developing some sustainable farming projects. And we're also working with the Northwest Louisiana YMCA to create an outdoor education center that's about 112 acres. In each of these instances, we utilize plants, stone, wood, materials, concrete to create and compose places where both humans and nature can flourish. But another thing that all of our projects, almost all of them, have in common is the component of public art. Next slide, please. In our experience here in Fort Lauderdale, since we started Cadence in 2010, we've had the joy of pushing the envelope of creative placemaking in Fort Lauderdale. Through projects like Better Block Fort Lauderdale, Revel on the Block, Play Your City, and of course, Mockingbird Trail that we're going to talk about today, each of these projects uses the art of community engagement to inform the final outcome of a project. After several years that we were doing these demonstration projects in the small kind of confines of Flagler Village, Cadence, alongside other community members and artists, endeavored on this idea of the Mockingbird Trail. So in 2014, a group of us created this exploration-based public art trail project, and that's when this first idea was born. Next slide. So this group of community members, which consists of Sarah Rupert from Girls Club Collection, and Valeria Yamamoto, who is the artist we worked with out of Miami, Gage Couch, myself from Cadence, and two community members, April Kirk and Chad Scott. This was the group that, you know, really looked into this project and decided that we wanted to collaborate and create a project for Fort Lauderdale. So through a variety of community workshops and these artist collaborations, the incredible tale of this mythical orange mockingbird emerged. It's a story that was completely made up by our team, and this was built on what we heard from the community, their desires. There was a need for a story that resonates and inspires artists and our community members to want to know more. Where is this bird? How did it get to Flagler Village or to other neighborhoods of Fort Lauderdale? What is its evidence of existence in the form of public art sculpture? Artists and community members created this magical tale. Next slide. The idea of this bird, this mockingbird, brought endless and great inspiration to its origin artist, Valeria, who you see here in these slides. Her works for the project were balanced between her ability to work with both concrete and metal. Valeria created life-size to scale evidence pieces of this giant or orange mythical mockingbird that was flying throughout the downtown neighborhoods of Fort Lauderdale. Orange from eating on Florida citrus. And through fallen feathers and bird footprints, community members can see evidence of this bird's existence as they walk around the city. Next slide. To say that the community was smitten with this idea is an understatement. After its launch in 2015, the Mockingbird Trail art pieces morphed into a community of folks raising the dialogue in our city for the need of an urban trail, for safe alternatives to transportation for pedestrian cyclists, and for more public art in the streetscape realm, and for investment in this public space. In 2016, a nonprofit with a concerted mission was developed. This board wanted to push the story of the mythical bird. How could this story be riffed on with different artists and another community engagement project? So partnering with the Lighthouse of Broward and the artist collective Unconventional, another creative placemaking project was brought to the city by the Mockingbird Trail Board. The next slide is going to be a video, and you can see a little bit about our multisensory mural located on Andrews Avenue called Main Course. You can how do you experience art if you cannot see it? We wanted the mural to be more than just a mural. Murals are popping up everywhere. They have been forever. But can they be three-dimensional? Can they be multi-sensory? We knew we wanted that, especially with the fact that we were partnering with the Lighthouse of Broward. So we decided we were going to experiment big time and figure out a way to do a multi-sensory mural that could have smell and touch, and you could hear things. We found Unconventional and Jordan. We saw what they are able to do with the community, and they care about the stories that their murals are telling. So they were a perfect match for this new endeavor.
The outline becomes the blueprint of the piece. So there's a lot of steps that go into the final result of this, but it's a systematic process that at the end of the day, the entire mural gets completed by all these people that participate.
Our first artist that we worked with, Valeria Yamamoto from Miami, helped us come up with this mythical mockingbird who has been feasting on citrus and has turned orange and is giant and is elusive in our neighborhood.
Basically, my role in this was to design a visual based on everyone's ideas and concepts behind the mockingbird. No one has ever painted my walls for me, so this collaboration is a first for me to paint with and collaborate with visually impaired people and what they contribute to a piece of art and how special that is.
We really are creating a win-win scenario for everybody involved. We have local businesses that are supporting the arts. We have artists who are benefiting in getting their message out there. And we have local government and city change makers who are getting a new art installation that's going to be inclusive, inviting people to walk through the streets and interact with their surroundings, and at the same time interact with fellow community members.
We were able to figure out all these layers of the multisensory component in the context of the environment, and then unconventional. It worked their magic for how we connected with the community. Ernesto, of course, worked his magic with the visual component of this. And so now we have this full story of main course that you can now see on the side of Lighthouse of Broward. All right, next slide. So I definitely want to thank, I think hopefully everybody saw at the end of that, the Community Foundation of Broward. They have funded both of our large-scale community engagement and public art efforts, the Mockingbird Trail organization. So a huge thank you to them for their continued support for our efforts to do quality creative placemaking in the city of Fort Lauderdale. So with more excitement and more investment after this project took place, the private business community stepped forward and the board set out to transform what was first, as you'll see on the left of the slide, a smaller neighborhood exploration art trail into what you see on the right side of the slide now, which is a bigger, bolder, citywide trail that knits together the diverse and vibrant downtown neighborhoods we have in the city of Fort Lauderdale. This trail stretches east to west across the FEC rail line and north and south across the river. Next slide. Today, the board is working tirelessly to demonstrate to the city of Fort Lauderdale the immense value that this organization brings to our community and its commitment to creative placemaking with public art and community engagement at its heart. Public outdoor spaces are common ground. They are not leftover spaces. When proper community engagement is performed, when creative minds are tapped to design these spaces, and when artists' talents can be displayed in public space, these are spaces that transform our cities. When spaces are designed for all people with input from the people that live there, they are spaces that heal. They are spaces that inspire, and they are spaces where we can all come together outdoors. Next slide. So this is just kind of showing, breaking out that first image you saw, how we see kind of landscape architecture as public art, all the elements in place to create a unified place, an outdoor gallery for people to understand their surroundings when they move through the city. Next slide. So in closing, I would be remiss to not share with all of you the true challenges, though, that public artists and organizations like this face. In 2019, 4 years after the implementation of 2 of the 6 pieces created for the original series, 2 of our feathers disappeared from the city of Fort Lauderdale. To date, we've not been able to recover or locate these beautiful life-size feathers that Valeria sculpted and brought to life in our city. Next slide. And our other ongoing challenge is commitment and collaboration from partners at the City of Fort Lauderdale. I wanted to share this underlined picture with everyone. For those not familiar, the City of Miami is off and running and opening their first phase of a 10-mile path that will run underneath the Metro Rail. Both the Underline and Mockingbird Trail were born in the same year. Both were actually featured in a Tropic Magazine article 6 years ago as the tale of two trails, one in Miami and one in Fort Lauderdale. So we look to Miami and their ability to collaborate, invest, and work outside the box to bring a project like this to light. And we know it is possible. We have high hopes that our city can bring a project like this to life as well. So in closing, last slide, if you're interested in supporting the trail to learn more about it, please connect with us. You can contact me directly. Some information here is for my direct contact information. You can also search Mockingbird Trail on Instagram. There's a website, and join our email list. There's a great group of board members working very hard to bring more public art programming and community engagement projects to the table in 2021. And they are working really hard to create a better, greater vision of public art and streetscape projects for our city residents and visitors to enjoy. So I appreciate your time tonight. I look forward to the question and answer session. So back to Ed.
Great. Rebecca, thank you so much. It's exciting to see what goes on in the city in which we live, in which we probably drive more and not see as much. So this is like encouragement for us to sometimes get out of our cars and find these great places and these projects that are underway. So again, thank you so much, Rebecca, for talking about the Mockingbird Trail. FAB's mission is to support, sustain, and enrich the arts in our community. One way we do this is through grants for arts performances in Broward. This year, over $300,000 was provided to 36 organizations. And we do this with 100% of our membership fees. Last year, we expanded our corporate membership. And tonight, I'd like to introduce Denise Elia. She's co-owner of Casa D'Angelo, restaurant here in Fort Lauderdale, and other communities close to Fort Lauderdale. Denise has been a corporate partner for over 8 years. Recently, I had an opportunity to sit down and or stand up and talk with Denise regarding why she joined FAB and what it means to her. So let's meet Denise. I am pleased to be here at Casa D'Angelo restaurant, and I'm with the owner, Denise Elia. And I'd like to introduce her as she is a FAB corporate partner.
Hello, Ed.
Hello, Denise.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Oh, we're just pleased.
We are very proud to be affiliated with FAB.
So I just want to ask you, why did you join FAB? Why is FAB important to you?
Well, it goes back many years ago when I first heard of the initiative, and a friend gathered her girlfriends and says everyone invites a friend, and we'll start this, that we will start funding art in Broward with so many cuts in the budgets, and we see that there's a huge need in our community.
Member for how long with FAB as a corporate member?
As a corporate member, it's been about 8 years.
That's great. We so appreciate your support, and it's important that we give back to our community, and what a better place than to come to this fabulous restaurant, have Italian dinner, and celebrate the arts. Thank you.
We thank you.
Okay.
We feel very fortunate to be part of FAB. When I joined FAB, I realized how little did I know about our community and what it has to offer. So I thank you for bringing it to us and making it so easy for us to help.
Great.
So bravo to FAB. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Denise.
Thank you.
Well, we want to thank Denise for spending some time with us. And I know you saw those bottles of wine, but we didn't get to sample any when we visited her. So I think we'll have to go to dinner and try some of their great wines. Now we leave Fort Lauderdale and we head west to Oregon and Washington to hear about a unique outdoor sculpture exhibit called Gallery Without Walls that is administered by the Arts Council of Lake Oswego. Nicole Nathan is the executive director who has worked with arts and cultural organizations for over 20 years. So let's give a warm welcome to Nicole and thank you for joining our FAB audience today. Nicole?
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm so glad to be with you and to be able to join in this interesting discussion. It's been fantastic so far, and I'm learning all kinds of new things. So I just wanted to give you a short introduction to what the Arts Council of Lake Oswego is, what we do, and talk about a couple of our programs that you're able to see when you come to the city of Lake Oswego. So we are just outside Portland. We are a suburb of Portland, and Lake Oswego is about 40,000 people. It's a very well-off suburb, and that is one of its claims to fame. And it is home to many beautiful houses, park systems. It's very bucolic, and people really love their community. So all along throughout the 1980s, art has been a major part of importance in the city as well as the community. And there has been, there was a arts board or arts commission, which was part of the city, like a regular board and commission, all throughout the 80s and 90s. And then in the very late 90s, 1999, 2000, it came to everybody's attention that there was the ability to do different things and much more extensive things with the arts and with public art if the organization, if the board, which was city run and all volunteer, if it was somehow associated with a nonprofit. So at that point in 1999, that's when the Arts Council came to be. And we were established as a nonprofit, and we're an interesting hybrid because while we are a nonprofit, we do contract with the city of Lake Oswego to run their public art program. There are public art programs all throughout, obviously, the United States and the world, and ours is one of the more unique ones in terms of how we're set up. So that's an interesting way of how the Arts Council came to be. So from those days of being a nonprofit volunteer board, we have grown to have 3 full-time employees, which for us is a lot. And we do all kinds of things, but what is probably most recognizable and unique in terms of what we do is our Gallery Without Walls program. Now, coming up, we're going to have a short video which will show you a little bit of information about some of our artists who participated with us this year. But just to give you some background, it's a really unique public art program because we have both permanent and as well as temporary on loan pieces. So there are over 80 sculptures throughout the city and throughout the whole city of Lake Oswego, east to west and north to south. And those 80 sculptures, of those, roughly about 50 are owned and in the permanent collection of the city. The other 30 are, at any given time, they're rotating, not spinning, but on loan. And so those pieces are here temporarily. They're here for a period of 2 years. And during that 2 years, they are available for sale. They're available for that you can purchase them, you know, a corporate sponsor can purchase them, a business can purchase them, an individual, any of those things. And then at the end of that period of those 2 years, they go either back to their artist, they go to another program. But what's really great about it is that we get something new every year. So every summer, you know, the streets of Lake Oswego change, and between 10 and 15 new pieces come in every year. So again, that program's called Gallery Without Walls. it is, like I said, anywhere between 10 and 15 new pieces come in per year. And they are also sponsored. We endeavor to have each of those sponsored by either an individual, a family, or a business throughout the city. And for that sponsorship, our business partners, what they're able to do is receive all kinds of benefits for that. So the benefits to that program are that you can receive advertisement in our brochure. We have a location app that your name is listed in, and then there's a plaque at the spot itself where you're able to, where your business is listed. So just to give you a little bit of information about who we are and what we do, we work to ensure that the arts are an integral part of life in our community, both now and into the future. And our collective actions and commitments result in enlivening our built and natural environments while adding value to Lake Oswego's economy. We have effective collaborative partnerships which strengthen our community. We work to increase visual art appreciation by understanding by our residents and visitors. And we also look to increase arts tourism and visitors as economic drivers for the city and our organization. So as you can see, we contribute not only a number of things to our community, but we really want to look at those things that bring in more money, that bring in people, that bring in tourism, that bring in livability added to what we have here in Lake Oswego. And so it's just a really great partnership that we have throughout the city as well as our businesses. What I want to be able to do is show you our video, which includes some of our exciting artists from this year. So just to give you a brief introduction on who those artists are, Rory Doyle is a photographer, and he actually came to us through our Gallery Without Walls application program with these photographs. And he said, I want to blow these up and make these really large. And so we worked with him to figure out how to do that. We hadn't done large photo murals like this before. We worked with him, and we also worked with our fire department, as those are where the images ended up being finally. Our second artist is Teresa White. She is a Yupik native artist, and this was one of her first pieces of public art. So again, we work with people who are not only established artists, but who are new, and this is their very first foray into public art. Our last artist that's included is Gabe Babcock. He's been included in Gallery Without Walls a couple years ago as well, but he has since moved, and so now he's not as local as he was, but he still loves the program and wanted to apply. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to think about those great things while you take a look at our video, and then look forward to questions and answers with you, because there's much more information we can share, but we don't need to monopolize everyone's time. So ready for the video now. Thank you.
My name is Rory Doyle, and I have two pieces in the Gallery Without Walls exhibition this year, both from my Delta Hill Riders project. One is titled G Rise Up, and the other is titled Young Riders. I applied to Gallery Without Walls because I do feel the significance of public art, and in my case, as a storyteller, a photojournalist based in rural Mississippi, this particular exhibit is a great way for me to help share the stories of the people within my project. So my process, I do shoot with digital cameras, so digital photography. There's quite a luxury of being able to shoot, especially with moving subjects like horse riders. and working with digital cameras gives me the luxury of firing off quite a few frames to capture some of the action. I think that public art is important because it is education. It introduces people to things that they may not know. In my case, as a photojournalist, the artistic approach of telling a story and introducing people to different topics, themes, or conversations that are created as a result of art in a public space.
Lisa White. This is the Pendant Arising album Lemming. I lived in this community for a very short time, about a year and a half, with my family, and my family lives here. And I actually really love Lake Oswego and enjoyed Gallery Without Walls from the other side. And then I saw the application process and the call and decided to apply. It's about interdependence and survival and recognizing that we humans we tax the system, and everything that's alive and breathing is reliant on some other thing that's also alive for prospering, being well, surviving. So that my nephews can walk down the street and see something beautiful and get inspired and wonder about the world, be interested in how things could be if the mind was expanded and a little bit more open. So I hope that people who are interested in this piece, if they look up a little bit, I mean, I just have a very short paragraph about kind of my concepts around this piece, and I would love it if anyone had interest if they looked into that, because I do think that the ideas are hopefully bringing in a native perspective. I'm a Yupik Alaska Native, and bringing in a native conversation around values. Thank you so much. I'm super excited, and I'm very grateful to all of you and the Arts Council.
My name is Gabe Babcock, and the title of my piece is Raven. I applied to the Gallery Without Walls public art program because of the people that manage it and the community that supports it. This is my second time doing it, and I feel like everyone is family, even though I've only met them 3 times. The community members that show up bring a wave of positive energy that is contagious, and everybody has a good time while we're installing the piece. This piece was inspired by watching a raven in flight. From the reflection of light, the black bird flashed to white, then back to black. The contrast of that moment stuck with me. Curiosity swelled, and I wanted to create a piece of art to bring that moment back to life. It is composed of basalt, cedar, and steel, local materials for local people to connect over. Basalt being the floor of the Northwest, cedar being its sacred tree. It is made entirely of recycled materials, either from the classifieds, scrap piles, or repurposed from my own personal projects. For me, recycled materials inspires me to think creatively and forcing me to use what I have rather than what I want, an important aspect of all my work and a responsibility for me as a human on this planet. I think public art is important because it provides a safe place for people to appreciate art without feeling intimidated by a museum or gallery setting. It also adds character to an environment, bringing people together and inspire people to think beyond their personal selves.
So that just gives you a little taste of what kinds of pieces that were that came into the city of Lake Oswego this year. So we had 12 pieces this year, and those were 3 of them. One of our former participants, who has been an artist with us in the past, is Pat McVeigh, and it is my pleasure to introduce him. He lives in far northern Washington and will tell you a little bit about some of the programs that are going on around him. Thanks.
Hey, Pat, we can't hear you. So you might have to start over. Just unmute yourself. And
Am I unmuted now?
yes, now we can hear you playing. Very good. So,
Thank you. I'm very technically challenged. I had to have my teenager help me get started.
Don't we all? Well, thank you, Pat.
All right, thanks. I'm a full-time artist that lives on Whidbey Island, north of Seattle. And I've been participating in these programs for about 22 years now. And so I average about one program a year. I don't always get accepted. Sometimes I get rejected. And so Lake Oswego in Oregon has been one of the very nice ones I was in. And I wanted to give credit to the fellow who started all these programs in our area. His name is Richard Beyer. And if you bring up the first slide, it has one of his sculptures. He had a very, this is the troll that lives under the bridge. And he was very instrumental in getting this project going for the city of Seattle. The Fremont area of Seattle is a very artsy area. And Richard had the idea that people should be able to choose their own public art. And so they would have competitions to see what the public would like. And so rather than having an art committee choose the public art for you and place it somewhere, people got to vote. And so this was one of the pieces that he got the University of Washington Architectural Department to help design this. And I don't, you can't see it, but there's a life-size Volkswagen in the hand of the troll. If there's another, the next slide might have another very popular. Oh, okay. Well, I guess we don't have that one. But so Richard Beyer thought that if communities could have these art programs, then maybe they could set up they could have a brochure for the public to go around and see art, and they would get a chance to see these pieces out in the open for several months or up to a year or 2 years, and in the end get to hopefully buy one of them or two of them and add them to their permanent collection, just like Lake Oswego's done. These next few pieces will be some of the ones that I've done before. I use recycled wood, already trees that are already down. This piece is about 8 feet high, carved out of one piece of wood, and it was part of a series of salmon that I was doing. And we installed this in a park downtown in Bellevue, Washington, with just using some bits of some concrete and fastening it down so that if people want to climb on it, that kind of thing, nothing's going to ever fall over. If there's an earthquake or a big wind, you always want to be careful that the public's never going to be hurt. So they're not that complicated to install. And if we roll through these slides, I can talk about the next slide. This is another in that series. And in this case, we wanted to put the sculpture up in the air because where the location was, parked cars were going to be there. So we wanted to place it up above the level of any SUV that might be parked there so the art could still be seen. And on the next slide, it shows how we used the other way. We used a boom truck, which is basically a small crane, to install this piece. And we just and then volunteers come out. It's really great to go to these shows because you meet all kinds of very nice people, and it doesn't take us that long to get these things in place. And the next slide can show you. Here's another place we put near in a small park. There's 5 pieces installed here. Some of the places or towns use slabs of concrete, which are established areas for the rotating art. And so on the bottom of each sculpture is some kind of metal so that can be fastened to these pieces, fastened down to the concrete slabs. The next slide shows how this piece is installed near the waterfront in a little community. And they have a system where there is 4 sets of bolts in the ground already. And so the artist has to conform their sculpture to that plinth and be able to fasten it to those bolts. And then the bolts are fastened down with a special wrench so that nobody can just come along and undo them. So this piece is about 8 feet high, so you would not want it to be tipping over or anything. And they're securely fastened, and this show goes on for a year. The next slide, artists don't always have a big budget to install pieces. So here I am with that same 9-foot sculpture in my little truck on my way to deliver. And in this case, we didn't need a machine. We were able to tip it out with 3 people and onto the 4-bolt pattern. And so the next slide shows how a sculpture can be put up against a wall. And most people with a wall do not want any fasteners put into that wall. So what we did here was we put a screen behind it of what's called hog wire, and it's people use it on for fencing and decks, and so that can be planted into the ground, and then the sculpture fastened to that. And so the next piece is a collaboration I did with a friend where she painted the glass and so these sculptures can be placed along a pathway so that people passing in both directions see something nice. And in this case, we had a larger version of this where we separated a part of the park and the parking lot near the library and created a nice art barrier there that looked nice. The next slide would be me. So some of the walking tours, this is a brochure that Lake Oswego has, and if you're going to have a program, not everyone is into print anymore. A lot of people use their cell phones for everything. This piece, the merchants love this because it parades the artwork. It puts the artwork around to the different parts of the community. And so people parade around and find the artwork, and then they find the little restaurant next door or the shop next door. And so it really helps with the local merchants love it. Here's a typical plaque where there's a QR code here that people can scan in with their phones these days. A lot of people don't like maps anymore. And so it also has information on the plaque about who the artist is, how it's made. If it's for sale, it's very important to help out with the artist because not all of them are wealthy, and so they make their living this way. So for me as an artist, and you want to have at least a hope that maybe it'll sell, or maybe it would become part of the permanent collection. And if you can create most of your funding by donors, that's a great thing. Artists expect that maybe a commission is taken when something sells, so that's reasonable too. Try to keep the percentage low. And then one final thing that Richard Beyer, the guy who got all this started, he had a great idea where if you have a nonprofit and you have a donor that can purchase some art and donate it to the nonprofit, that could be the art trail, the library, the school, whoever has a 501c3 tax status can accept this donation, and then the donor who purchased this can get a tax write-off, and then meanwhile the artist gets paid for their art. If an artist just donates art, then they can only write off the amount of the cost of what it cost to create it. So if Picasso donated a painting, he could write off the amount of paint and the canvas that he used and the framing costs, and that's about it. So anyway, that's about it. I'll see you at the Q&A if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Pat, so much. We'll see you shortly. And thank you, Nicole. We'll see you shortly as well. It's so important when we look at outdoor art because it does impact our communities. This creative artistic expressionism is really so important. It is an economic factor, as Nicole mentioned, as well as our own enjoyment. And again, another reason to get out of our cars and walk around and see some of this public art. Well, next up is FAB's own Kat Sierra, and she's going to moderate the Q&A. So if you've submitted your questions in the chat box, she'll be monitoring those. So we welcome back Rebecca, Nicole, and Pat. Take it away, Kat.
Thank you, Ed. So we're going to go ahead and get started with, go right into the Q&A. Rebecca, the first question is for you. How do you solicit art pieces for the trail? And what is your artist call process?
So we have not had any open call art selection process yet. Both of the big community engagement projects we did were specific grants that a team that put itself in place for the specific site design and community engagement that we wanted to do. Sarah Rupert, some of our in-house curation team, put the teams together to apply for the grant and then win it. So that's the two ways in which you saw the major pieces we have on Mockingbird Trail, the art selected. But I do know, in the future, the board is hoping for additional grant dollars and private funding to be able to do some open artist calls. So that's on the future to-do list.
Great.
Thank you. Nicole, your question is, how has the exposure for the artist been impacted by being included in your outdoor project?
Yeah, I think that a bunch of our artists who have participated over time, they've both been able to, they either have gained recognition through participating in our program that kind of opens up some other doors, or it's a way that we can, it's also a way that we can recommend people if they're looking for, if say another municipality is looking for someone to be able to help them in a project. So I'm going to take someone named Sharon Warman Agner. She is an artist from Vancouver, Washington, and she has participated with us. So our program is about 20 years old. She has participated with us probably about 12 of those years. She has amazing pieces, and she really came to us as she was very much as she was starting out. She learned to be, she went on her artistic journey about in her 40s, and was really responding to a lot of different things that were happening in her life. She was fighting cancer, she was doing all these different things, and her artwork really illuminated that. So we've been able to utilize Sharon in terms of her knowledge. She's been able to utilize our program as a stepping stone to other programs that she's participated in. And now she is on the committee for selecting this year's Gallery Without Walls artists. So they are just starting their whole process of going through to select for the pieces that are going to come up for next year. So it's really exciting to see kind of the progression and what she's done over these years. So that's just one example.
Great, thank you. In the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and just do a group question. Is there a way to know how many people tour the art each year? That's for everyone.
I'll let Nicole answer first. She might have a more solid answer.
Okay. Yes and no. That's metrics are what we're always trying to figure out. And how do you find out how many people who are just walking by? We were investigating a lot of different things, but what we have found is we have a location app. We had a standalone app that a volunteer had helped us design, but we were able to work with the Public Art Archive. So they're part of WestAF out of Denver. And the Public Art Archive has a database system that is specifically made for public art. Well, as part of that, they also have developed an app or a web-based location application. And so what we're able to do is we have a text number. So it's text GWW to a local 503 Oregon number. And then you get a link back, and then you can start a tour from there. Now, so that's really, and it's actually not that expensive per year. We're a super small organization and we can afford it. So, that's one way that we've been able to do it. But like Pat showed you, we also print, 15,000 brochures. They're out in the community. People are able to pick those up. So again, you can't capture, kind of that, how many people just walk by. That's, if somebody comes up with a good answer for that.
So
I'm all for it.
we have a wish list item for that. That's kind of been one of our hoping to get a grant for dollars for, is to have an actual trail counter. There's digital trail counters. And so for us, since our artwork, it may be more difficult, ours is hoping to follow a certain route, and we want to get a certain quantity of trail counters. So when someone walks by that, that number is just ticking. So that does a lot of things for metrics. It helps us show how many pedestrians are, using this. How does that change over time? And, hoping that we could do that in a highly creative way so the trail counter itself becomes a piece of public art.
Great. Well, I want to thank all of you for participating today. It's been a fabulous program. We're all more informed now on public art and how beneficial it is to our community. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it back to Ed. Ed?
Well, thank you, everybody, for participating. I want to thank the folks who put the production together. It's our first time. We're working with Jesse and Angela, and certainly Kat, for this innovative FAB program. Also to thank the committee, the FAB committee, that thinks up all these great ideas, to Gail Austin Copen and Vicki Stolberg for their research. This year, FAB has met the challenge of engaging our memberships through these monthly FAB Presents. We anxiously await when we can all to be safe again, that we can have our interactive social events coming up. However, right now, we feel this is our best way of connecting our membership with various topics, interesting topics. So mark your calendars for the next FAB Presents. It's on January 11th, where we will visit the Image Museum and learn about Studio Glass movement. So again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We always welcome your feedback and suggestions. And so until next time, have a great holiday season, and we'll see you at another FAB Presents. Thank you.